Welcome to MindMomBodyRN, Sophia. Here we are.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Soph. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing so good. I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, me too.
And I am so excited to talk about our favorite parenting topic.
Yeah, I do love this one.
And this is like literally gold. Like this episode is probably the most valuable episode that we will have done thus far. Although the others were building blocks leading up to it. But this is like the get out of jail free. This is your stress card. This is everything, what we're about to give you. This toolbox.
It's a huge hack.
It's a huge hack. Like I'm talking Chat GPT level. Yeah, this is some good shit.
Yeah.
So
the everything tool.
The everything tool. Well, this is a big buildup, but you guys, it's everything. It's worth it.
Yeah.
So scripting. Tell me what scripting is.
Okay, so...
Oh, wait. First, our momity. Tell us a funny story.
Okay, well, children in the classroom, they don't always want to do what you ask them to do.
That's
I know
funny.
This may come as a surprise.
I thought they always like to listen.
But no, sometimes they don't. And so I will regularly prompt children. I'll say, okay, it's time to sit at the table now. You can say, okie dokie, Miss Sophia. And usually they'll say, okie dokie, Miss Sophia. And then they'll sit down as though I've cast a magical spell. It's kind of crazy that works, but sometimes it doesn't. There's no tool that works every single time on every single child. So I had this one child, I was asking him to, we're going to call him L. I was asking L to put his book away. He was really upset. He did not want to put it away. It was about sharks. I can't say I blame him. And I said, you can say, okie dokie, Miss Sophia. And he's just sobbing. Big fat tears rolling down his cheeks. And he said, I don't want to say okie dokie. All right, Elle, you don't have to say okie dokie, but you do have to put your book away, though.
And so you gave him a solid compromise, though.
Yeah.
And he felt like he had some choice.
Yeah.
And that's like literally half of it. If you can get down scripting and figure out how to give choices, even when there's not a choice like when they feel like they're choiceless, you have like won 80% of, I don't want to call it the battle, but like the puzzle strategy of parenting. Yeah. Strategically, you are like 80% there with what you need to know.
Choices is huge.
Yes. Scripting and all the things.
Yeah. So we're talking about scripting today. The idea behind scripting is coming up with a go-to phrase to just have in your tool belt so that when you're in a stressful moment with a child, you don't have to improvise what you're going to say.
And the phrase is something that should be used often when you're not in meltdown mode. They should know automatically what it means. And it's almost like it's a verbal guardrail, kind of like we talked about those boundaries.
I also like to think about it as a shortcut.
Yes.
Right? You're shortcutting their brain to go to a known location.
Right. Without It's like a nice guardrail that they, a nice exit lane.
Yeah.
To get to where we need to go. Yeah, absolutely. And so can you say more about scripting? Like, because I feel like we've done a lot of talking about what it is, but in its tools and it's in your toolbox.
Yeah, a tool in your toolbox that you can pull out.
So give me a good script.
So, I mean, my favorite, and I've said this before on the podcast, is it safe? Is it kind?
Is it safe and is it kind?
Yep. It's simple. And I also talk about it often with my kids outside of a stressful situation. So we'll talk about in a large group, we'll be sitting down for group time and Demi and I will say, we have 2 jobs for everybody in our class. Your first job in your class is to keep it safe. We'll talk about all the ways we're going to keep it safe. Keeping it safe is not running in front of your teacher in the hallway. Not safe. Keeping it safe is using kind words with your friends.
Gotta protect their hearts.
Although that's kind too. You gotta protect your heart. Gotta keep yourself safe.
Yeah.
Keeping it safe is you have to wear shoes on the playground. Keeping it safe is washing your hands before you eat.
Yep.
Germs. Danger.
A new safety rule in our house that you know about is we have to wear underwear whenever anyone is here besides just our family. Like,
yeah.
You
and
have
if you
to.
know Rachel's family, when no one's here, they don't.
But Eloise, the kids.
Yeah.
The kids.
Yes.
The kids.
Not the grown-ups.
Yeah, not the grown. Sometimes me, but Andy always has his underwear on. I mean, like, we have 3 kids, not always, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
but anyway.
Mostly, yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Is it safe? Is it kind?
Is it safe? Is it kind? Okay.
And a key to that, right, is you have to have the conversation, like you said, outside of the stressful moment. If you try to just throw in, a phrase like that without having explained it at length with your child first, it's not going to have the same effect.
Right.
That it would. If you've had prior conversations where you're calm, you're emotionally connected, you're being playful and curious together about the topic at hand. Another one that Rachel loves is this a tool or a toy?
And if it is a tool, is it being used for its intended purpose?
Yeah.
Oh, I got that from you. I love that.
It's really
we
good.
talked about this, right? Like this
Applause.
is applause.
Right?
This is silent applause. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Because we're not going to damage our hands. We'll talk about that in a different episode. Like, don't clap too much, too hard.
Yeah, that was I'm sorry. That was so validating when you taught me that's why my hands hurt when they're clapping, is because I'm hurting them.
Yeah. And so
validating. Yeah. I thought I was just weak.
No. So, like, if you want to protect your hands, there's like this new social movement that they're doing in classrooms and schools and everything, because like so many kids now we're identifying get imagine all of a sudden like you have a sensory issue and everyone's sitting around you just like doing this in the class. It's too much. It's too much. So I'm trying to like do it. Yeah.
I can only raise one hand because I'm weak.
Okay.
Okay, so another one of my favorite moments to bring up scripting is around sleep. We all know children often struggle with napping or going to bed, right? And a huge part of making that a team effort with your child instead of a battle between you, I think, is predictability. We've talked about before. And if you can come up with the script that works for you two as a team.
Yes.
That's huge.
And if they carry half the script, they like having like knowing what a response is.
Yeah, they do.
They really do.
The fill in the blank.
Yeah.
bit.
So what I started doing with Eloise is, what does no mean? I'm telling you no, what does no mean? And girl loves a test. She's like, no means stop and listen.
She does.
Yeah. So if you can almost have a thing that where like, it's like, I don't know, like who are the champions? I don't know. I feel like it's like a cheer I do with her sometimes, where it's like it gets her to stop just enough to like when you hear and you automatically want to do the. I feel like with kids, a lot of the times, if you give them half of it and then they have like a half they're supposed to say back.
Yeah, like the dun 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 dun.
And then they know that they're the dun dun. Yeah. When you do it like that.
There's a little dopamine kick that goes with that. Everybody likes that.
And
the predictability.
A pause with what they're doing. So when I say no means, and she hears that, stop and listen. Like, you know what I mean? It's great when they can say it.
And it connects you, right?
Right.
You're being a team in that moment in completing your little mini verbal ritual. Yeah.
And another thing that you're really good at that I want to give you kudos to, that I observed you do and have now been doing more of myself, is circling them around to their own conclusion.
I love that.
I learned that observing you. I wish it was a skill. I mean, not that I'd never used it, but I consciously do it more now, where,
because you definitely already did it. Like I've seen you do it.
Well, thank you. Early. That makes me feel good. But so let's say I have like my littlest screaming, my middleest screaming, and Eloise is like, Mom, I just want milk, So I'll say to Eloise, I'll be like, babe, I really want to get you milk. Oh my gosh, I want to get you milk so bad. But what else is going on right now? As I'm like actively changing a diaper or like, hugging, snuggling a Boombi, giving a breastfeeding.
An owie.
Oh yeah, we call Boombies.
I'll translate.
Owies, yeah. any of those things, you're holding Wesley and he's crying and he's the baby. Let's make sure he's okay. And then I'm like, okay. And then after that, can you help me? Can you check in with your sister quick? Because the sooner that we do this, we can get you to milk, you know? And so then it becomes like a collaboration.
Yeah. Because we need to do biggest emergency first.
Yeah, we triage.
We triage. Yeah, we do.
We do.
You gotta.
Yeah. And another thing that isn't necessarily a script that I feel that like I push hard, that like you also in the classroom pushed hard on your own thing, is that like we are always having community in mind. Community being huge. Our classroom, community being like our house. I take the community of our house very seriously. We have community areas and we have private areas and community toys and personal toys. And like,
I really believe in that. We
are big. I try to word community and all of that like built in to parenting. Like this is their minor ecosystem of a community that they're learning in right now that I'm creating.
You want the way it functions to translate well to the greater world, which is, we've talked about how one of the key components of gentle parenting is preparing your child to be a good adult, right? Rather than
can I make an appeal?
Child.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, can I make an appeal? Love that one.
Yes. Okay, give me more.
I want to tell you guys what I would say to children as we're laying down to rest.
Oh, yes. Tell me.
Because Demi and I, my co-teacher, worked at length.
Demi, whoop, whoop.
We love Demi.
We loved Demi. Come work for me. Okay. Demi, be a consultant.
Demi, where are you?
Consider this a formal offer. Call me later. Okay. Demi and I worked a lot around what to say to children around laying down, right? And one of the things we would repeat is, you are safe. You are loved. It is time to rest your body. And there was a lot of trial and error around that. And I think that's, one of the ways that Demi and I have ended up with really good scripts, because we have had a lot of opportunity for testing out some ideas, right? Yeah.
And one of the things, especially the first two parts of that script came from, was the idea of brain states, right? So we'll talk about this more in our episode about regulation, but the idea is that there's three kind of categories that your brain can be in. One being, your executive state, where you are functioning, you are secure, you're not freaking out, you're regulated, you're cool.
In charge.
Yeah, you're in charge.
Yeah.
The next elevated state past that is like your emotional brain, right? You're asking the question, am I loved? Is the key conflict in your body at that time. So when you see people in the emotional state, you have them lashing out verbally. Okay. You have them, insulting other people, being unclear about how connected they are to their community. And then
when you're very evolved and you're in that state, then you ask for the reassurance you need.
Yeah. That's
you're
the goal,
realizing,
right?
like, I need you to tell me I'm a good mom. I need you to tell me I'm a good human. I need, you know what I mean?
Do you still love me?
Yeah. Do you still love me?
Can you please tell me that you still love me?
Yeah. And can you tell me I'm great? And
I can. You're
whatever.
Great.
No, but yes, exactly. Yeah. That's when we're self-actualized.
We do that for each other.
We do all the time. Like, I need a pep talk right now. Yeah. I've got 20%. I need you to bring me some 80 so we could,
yeah.
And
I think that being able to recognize it in yourself is a huge part of being able to walk your child out of that state back to the executive state, because you're not going to have safe connection. You're not going to have, the teamwork that we're talking about and solving community problems if your child is dysregulated.
That's so accurate. And to kind of just even just with that, if they're dysregulated, but even showing them, modeling that and being able to, be like, I am not feeling okay with that, whatever, but using a script for yourself, but I know that I'm safe and loved. And so I'm going to lay down and go to sleep, being able to model those things too are super, super
important.
valuable. Yeah. Super important.
trying not to use all of we could talk about regulation for a really long time, but to get back to me telling children, you are safe, you are loved, it's time to rest your body, right? So that first bit, the you are safe bit, is meant to take you out of fight or flight.
Yes.
Because the key conflict in your body in a fight or flight moment is, am I safe? I don't feel safe,
Where's
right?
the threat? Yeah.
Where's the threat? So I'm trying to quickly reassure a child, right? You are safe. You are loved. It's time to rest your body.
And hopefully you've built enough emotional rapport with this child that like they can take your words at face value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That they trust me.
Yeah. Because every time you've told them before they're safe, they've stayed safe. And every time that they have rested their body, they've woken up okay and felt better. And they can trust you in this wisdom that you're providing, that they'll stay safe and that their bodies will feel better.
Yeah. And there's almost like a Pavlovian component to it, right? Where like you hear these keywords and you always go to sleep after these keywords.
Well, kind of like the kids smelled lavender and got tired.
Yeah. So I would always have lavender on during nap time, and I would start it
diffusing.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I would start it before nap time, as we're like getting ready. We're all, diapering and laying down and reading our books, because I wanted to trigger it,
Yes.
Yeah. I like that one though.
That is a good one.
A good moment for a script, right, is when you have a child who is dysregulated. Just like.
And that script in and of itself is grounding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you feel like you know what you're doing too, like having some control over what's happening.
Right.
So when I see a child who is not chill. Not chill. I will start with saying, you look like you're feeling blank thing. You look really frustrated. And then I'll say, how can we solve this problem?
Yes. I love when you say that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And because I want to trigger their own creativity, right? And to build that autonomy that they can solve this problem. They can do it.
They can do hard things.
Yeah.
And that's another script.
You can do hard things. Oh my God. If I had $1 for every time I said that.
I literally feel like we need to look. Let's both look into the cameras and like tell all that, like, you can do hard things.
You can. Such a good mantra to repeat to yourself.
To myself. I say it to myself. No, I say it to Eloise. And I feel like every time I say it to her, I'm also saying it to myself.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, you can do hard things. Also, like the whole idea of like, I see that you're kids often will struggle with doing things. And I have found that like, at least with my experience with children, and I've also done play therapy. So like, I know that I reference my own children a lot, but I have done a lot of play therapy and like family reunification. So just with most children that I've observed, when they're struggling with something, they will not melt down and lose it over their frustration if you identify and say, I see you working so hard to figure that out, and I know that you can do it. If you decide that you would like some help, I'm right here, and that's fine. But I'm enjoying watching you like figure out this challenge.
I believe in you.
Yeah, and you can do hard things. Just like even knowing that the help is there, like usually they're less likely to take it. Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
They feel more secure.
Whereas they hate it. I hate it when people are just like, oh my God, give it to me, I'll do it.
Yeah, and what you're teaching your child when you're solving their problems for them without giving them a chance to struggle is that they can't do it.
Right.
And that is so not what any adult is trying to communicate, right? You're just seeing your child whom you love struggling and you want to help.
And that is
not
your
kid, that's not a bad thing.
And it's not
But we got to think about the impact.
And we got to try for 80-20 because I'm not going to say that sometimes kids don't want to put their shoes on or their jackets on or their pants on. And sometimes we got to go. And sometimes we don't have time to sit and talk them through.
When I'm putting snow pants on 20 children, I cannot sit next to them all and say, I see you're frustrated, but I believe you can do it. Okay, sometimes I'm just putting their snow pants on.
But sometimes
80% of the time, absolutely, I'm just putting their snow pants on.
But sometimes there are those two kids and you have room for those two kids.
They're almost there.
Yeah. And they just need that little, and then they've got it. And so for me as a parent, it's much easier for me to do those one-on-ones than it is for you as a teacher.
Yeah.
But as a teacher at the same time, you see that your students are at different places and that one might need you
so
just
you
next to them.
Just almost over that, the cusp of that hill, right? Of being able to do that activity themselves. And yeah, I mean, that's a good thing for any child, right? Is for you to notice how close are they to getting this as you're deciding how much time to give them to be frustrated with what they're working on.
So, for example, the other day, Eloise, or you don't, like, even just giving them, and this kind of goes to like a Montessori theory or the theory of, but it really helps with children's brains and behaviors, the way that you engage them. And if they are like actually being used, like they sleep better, their attitudes are better. So just caveat example, the other day Eloise had a necklace, and for the life of her, she wanted to get it on the very teeniest, tiniest hook. It was like a mandala prayer bead thing. And she just like, she could get the hook, but then she couldn't get the piece onto the hook because like her fingernail would slip with the hook. So she was like trying. I acknowledged that
and her poor little hands, they don't have all the muscles. Little. She's working so hard.
She knew exactly. She goes, Mom, I need you to just hold this hook open and sit still, and then I'll put the thing on. And I'm like, you knew exactly how much help you needed and what to ask for, and you just did. I mean,
awesome.
And that translates into like an amazing skill set in living as an adult to know like, I'm not helpless. I just need help with this.
And the ability to ask for help, right?
And identify,
Yeah. To have children who don't feel like they have to escape help. Like, I know, like, I had that when I was a kid, right? Like, I never wanted any help. I just wanted everyone to leave me alone and let me figure it out. And so, as an adult, that translated into me not wanting to ask for help ever.
Which, sometimes you need a little help.
Sometimes you need a little help. And it is okay to ask for help. It is a good idea. Everybody needs help sometimes.
The other thing that I kind of wanted to touch on, and I know that we should probably do a full episode on this, is like this whole idea, the myth of the spoiled child.
Oh, God. I just saw a Reddit post where someone was like, you know, my mother-in-law said I'm spoiling my baby because I always go over to them when they're crying. Is that real?
No.
No, it's not real. No. You cannot spoil a baby.
You cannot spoil a baby.
Impossible.
It's impossible. I mean, so Dr. Cookwood, who is like the pediatrician that has also been on the show.
Yeah.
He would say like that it's important that there is sleep training and that safe sleep is important, but also he sees most parents are so overworked that for the whole family to be safe, everybody needs to be getting like better sleep. And so Dr. Cook doesn't think you can spoil a child, but he does at like the 6-month point. We kind of differ on our opinions of like what we should be doing with them. But that was a big, long explanation to say the myth of the spoiled child, being generous with your child. And that doesn't mean buying them whatever they want. It means that like, when I have a bite of something and my kid wants it, like, okay, my kids are petri dishes, so like they're going to get the last bite. I'm going to try not to eat after them. But like I try to demonstrate generosity like consistently in my home. And that doesn't mean just hitting them with money. Like my kids are little, you know what I mean? But I try to model being generous with my time, being generous with my things with them. And I find that also like just creates, they then do that to their peers and to their other family members and their siblings. You know what I mean? It's a transition of,
You're modeling. You're modeling generosity. The other thing Rachel does really well, and it's the other side of this coin, is also modeling saying no.
You really think really?
You have been working on it.
I've been working really hard.
We all like have our thing we're working on, right? And like, yeah, you are like inherently generous, and you like have grown so much, and like saying, "Oh, this is my Gatorade." Like you can get a juice box, or what have you, a glass of milk. This mom's, this is mom's, and you wanna. That's an important thing to model too. That your child can say no, to their peers, right? Yeah, you don't want them to give endlessly.
Yes. And that's something that's a boundary, like to self-disclose. That's a boundary, like a marriage and family therapist, like nurse, midwife, mom of 3. I still struggle. a lot of parents struggle with saying no too much and like struggle with finding the yes in things. I struggle with finding the no in things.
Yeah. It's hard.
To a fault sometimes.
So this is something I wanted to bring up, honestly, in the gentle parenting episode is when you get into gentle parenting, we talked about how a lot of it is introspective. I think what happens for a lot of people is what you start struggling with is you overcorrect the thing that happened to you when you were a kid. So for me, like I'm a preschool teacher and it is really hard for me to raise my voice with children. Like learning to tell a child no firmly was really challenging for me. Like it took me 2 years before I figured that out. And I don't know if you've ever been in a room with 23-year-olds, but you do have to be able to say no in a firm voice. Yeah. It's important.
And how did you...
But that was from my childhood, you know, like that I didn't like being talked to the way I was talked to.
Right. And I think...
And so I didn't want to pass that on.
It is so rare. I will raise my voice more quickly than you will. And I'm not a voice raiser. But I will raise my voice much more quickly than you will. But, and I'm not a yeller. But I've only seen you raise your voice one time. And it was like a, stop! We're not going over there. I don't remember where we were, but there was something. I think we were at the Como Zoo maybe. And it was like we were not gonna cross the street. Like, it was more, I'm raising my voice to get
literal
attention.
Emergency.
Yeah, it was, And I've only heard you do it. And it scared me. I'm like, Eloise, we better get in line. Like,
Daddy Sophia is here.
God.
But I mean, that's the power in holding back when you raise your voice, though, right? Is that when you do, everybody listens.
My kid almost, if I raise my voice, my kid almost always cries. And it's because I do it like rarely enough that it's just shocking. And we process it and it's fine. I think it's super important to talk about repair because we are going to fuck up with our kids. We are going to fuck up in relationships because we're human beings. And part of like finding closeness, true closeness in a relationship is when you have like fucked up or gone too far with someone. And you can repair and say, I'm sorry. Or like, you know what I mean? That you're strong enough in yourself to admit, I didn't like that.
When I did that, I didn't like it.
I didn't like it.
Yeah.
So but also my children will stand up and say, I don't like that. So for an example, and I take this a lot more to the extreme than the average person. I just want to say that. Like I'm like a diehard gentle parent. I very much identify with it. I'm not one of those people that likes to take in. I like to take in pieces and bits from everything. Like, no, I truly believe this is the well-researched, evidenced right way to be raising children.
Yeah, I do think that.
If you don't agree with me on that, I get that, and that's just where I'm coming from, where I stand.
But this is going to be a long-term persuasive essay on why it is.
And why gentle parenting is what you should choose.
This is what you should choose. Yeah.
Basically. Thank you for giving that. Yeah, it was important that they had that. Scripting, repair. The biggest thing about repair, the two things that I'm trying to spit out are one, I apologize. And when I say repair, it means I apologize to my kid. I check in with them. I see what they need for the repair. When I know or when I feel yucky about what I've done something. But in turn, when I have upset one of my kids, when I have upset Eloise, when I have hurt Kendall, when something has happened that perhaps I don't think is as big of a deal, okay? When I don't feel yucky about what I've done, but they feel yucky about what I've done or said, I still create the repair. Because it doesn't matter whether I feel yucky or whether they feel yucky or whether I think that like they're being too sensitive. That's where their yucky's coming from. I value my relationship with them so much that either way, I'm going to create that repair. And even if I do something to Eloise, I mean, she's dramatic. You know what I mean? Even if I do something and then all of a sudden the mood changes and I didn't like that and that hurt my feelings and I'm crying and whatever, even if I feel like, Eloise, I just did this, I try not to minimize it. I'm guilty of doing it sometimes, but I try to be like, I'm sorry. I didn't realize like that was going to make you feel that way. I would not hurt you intentionally, but like my intent doesn't excuse like, you know what I mean? My intent doesn't...
Your impact.
My impact. Thank you. You know, I love that phrase. Yeah. My intent does not excuse my impact, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I have so much trust with my kids because of that. But at the same time, there have been so many times where I have felt yucky about things, and Eloise is over it.
Does not care.
Does not care. But I still will make a point of being like, you know, earlier today when I said that, I wish I wouldn't have said it to you that way. Like, I wish I would have said it like this. And I feel like I was a little bit terse with you. And I want you to know that, like, you don't deserve that. And I love you. And you're an awesome kid.
Yeah.
Sometimes she'll look at me and just be like, thanks, Mom. Like, you know what I mean? We don't have to have a big conversation. Or sometimes she'll say nothing at all, but I know that she's heard that like I attempted to like make the repair. And there are times that she apologizes to me for things and it makes me like whatever, but she will apologize to me for things that she feels bad about. Like that she feels like she owes me repair for. Like that I don't even need to know. Like she'll be like, Mom, I used some of your powder and I'm not supposed to use your powder. And I'm sorry. And I'll work harder to try not to. It's just, I like to play with your things.
And it like comes from like in her heart, she really wants to apologize to you.
She does.
Yeah.
She does.
She's not doing it performatively.
I don't require apologies.
No. I don't think that is a good way to teach empathy.
Not at all.
Demand apologies.
I do demand.
We could talk about that for an hour.
We could. I do demand. I demand a check-in.
Yeah.
I demand a check-in. Kids are going to hit each other, and we're not just going to watch them hit each other and be like, kids hit each other, kids will be No, they're going to hit each other, and then we're going to like correct them on it and like teach them a different way to have a healthy outlet.
My script in that moment is look at your friend. How are they feeling? And then ask them if they're okay. Mm-hmm. Right?
Right.
You need to check in with that person.
Yeah. So, you know what? You're right. So, okay, let's just do the typical, like every parent has had this. Like, you know, Eloise just, I don't know what's happened. I don't know what's triggered her. I don't know. But I turn around and she has hit Kendall and Kendall is crying, who's my middleist, and Eloise has hit her. The first thing I'm going to do is not yell at Eloise. Mm-mm. It's not to even acknowledge Eloise. Mm-mm. The very first thing I'm going to do is go to Kendall. Even if it's not like an emergency cry, is be like, that looked like it really hurt. I can't believe that happened to you. Or no, not I can't believe that happened to you, but that happened to you. That looked
not
awful.
Okay
that was
for her
not
to hit your body.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is your body okay? Are you all right? And I fully attend to Kendall. Even if Eloise is trying to talk to me, I'll say, I hear you right now, Eloise.
Not your turn.
But Kendall, you know what? Kendall is who got hurt. And so she's my priority I use triage a lot with my kids.
Yeah, triage. Yeah. Which, important.
I don't know. But I'm triaging Kendall, and Kendall's the most important right now. And so then when Kendall is calmed down, then I like turn and it's like, why did you do that? But out of curiosity, not blame.
Right. And what you're describing is also preventing the act of hitting another child becoming effective as an attention-seeking tool.
Right.
And I want to emphasize here that just because something is attention-seeking doesn't make it bad.
Not at all.
I never want to tell a child not to be attention-seeking. I want to teach them how to be attention-seeking in an appropriate way.
And we don't believe in tattling.
No, we don't believe in tattling.
We love tattling. Tell us everything. You tell me everything. To my children. Maybe not as a teacher, but to my children.
Oh.
Like, I love tattling. Like, when kids come and tell me stuff, like, tell me everything. Talk to me forever. I know it's different as a teacher, but as a parent, it's like, I never want you to stop telling me things that feel important to you. Because even though right now it might be like, Kendall took a sip of my juice box, like, as long as I like act, you know what I mean, convey interest, I will always convey interest. That happened? Really? Thank you for telling me.
Yeah, my situation is different.
Yeah. As a teacher.
Was that an emergency? Can you talk to Kendall about that?
Yeah, I don't.
That's your business.
But that is the difference between 20 kids.
And 3.
And 3, because I honestly believe if you had 3 of your own children at home, you would address it like that.
Yeah.
But with 20 kids, and that is managing a classroom, believing and knowing, hoping, but believing that they're going home to parents that are filling in those gaps, because it was not your job as a teacher to...
And you cannot have every interaction reported to me and functionally do my job.
Right.
I have to teach them how to deal with those circumstances themselves without involving me.
Absolutely.
I really want to circle back around, though, to when you were talking about repair. That's the one. Okay, so because you talked about how you'll repair for things even if you don't feel yucky and your child does.
Yeah.
Rachel and I disagree sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's okay. There's like more than one way
to
do everything.
Absolutely.
And different things work for different people and different kids.
And yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Right. In my experience, I will not repair just because the child is upset, though. I will validate that they're upset. I'll say, it's okay that you didn't like it when I told you we're all done painting. But I won't get down the way I would if I had made a not okay mistake. You know, if I had raised my voice or in a moment that wasn't an emergency, the way I promise my kids I'm not going to yell unless it's an emergency. So if I raise my voice outside of an emergency, I will say, I'm sorry that I talked to you like that. That wasn't an emergency. It wasn't okay. But if I'm working with a child and they're painting on the table and I say, P, let's not use P as a name because that's urine.
Yeah.
M, if you are continuing to paint on the table rather than the paper, we're going to be all done painting. And then they make the choice to intentionally paint on the table again. And I take the paint away and they're sobbing and they're saying, you're being really mean to me. I didn't like that. Totally out of sorts about it. I'm not going to say, my intent wasn't to hurt you. I'm not going to get down and spend time with them in that feeling. I'm going to say, it's okay that you're upset right now. You're safe and we can paint later. And I think part of that too is probably that I have 20 children.
And yeah, what I was going to say is I think that that's a very appropriate response for a teacher. Very appropriate. And I would say that as a parent, if you've responded this way, that's an appropriate response as a parent. You're doing fine. I just because we do it differently as a parent, if you're responding that way, that's great.
And different
you're meeting
people
their needs.
Have different bandwidths for how much emotional energy you can give your child in those moments, right?
That's true.
But that is one of my scripts to bring it back to our topic is I see you're feeling that. It is okay that you're feeling that, right?
I think this is why it's the perfect reason for you to be us to kind of be co-hosting this topic, because you kind of come from the perspective of a parent that works full-time and doesn't have a lot to give because so much of you is spread so thin between so many children. Whereas, I will be the first to admit I'm in a very privileged position where, my kids go to, Montessori or school during the day, or I also get help, with nannying or whatever so I can work, as we're working right now. But that leaves a lot more emotional bandwidth for me with my kids because I also, I have a lot of help in a lot of areas. And my emotional connections with my kids are something that I truly enjoy. I love that. And that might not be the case for everyone.
Yeah, totally.
And it might not be where you have emotional bandwidth. And that's totally okay. And if you do things like Sophia, where you're not having a full on.
Sometimes you have to save your energy.
Yeah. And that's okay. Just be nice. Be nice, be kind, be safe. Be kind, be safe.
Yeah.
But that's not to say
you don't have to get right down there and spend your empathy in that moment.
That's how I choose to spend mine, but that doesn't So I think that that's just a really good way to round it off. There's more than one way to do things.
More than one way to do things. Different scripts work for different people.
There's more than one way to gentle parent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And editing your scripts is as important as writing them.
Yeah.
All right, Mommy Mailbag.
Mommy Mailbag. Welcome to Mommy Mailbag.
First?
I want to read a question. I have two questions, and I want to read them. I want you to read. Let's start it over. Are you reading me Sarah or David?
I don't care.
I'll read Sarah to you.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, Soph.
Hey, Rachel.
Let's do a little mommy mailbag.
Yeah.
All right. I got a question for you. Sarah from Minnesota. Whoop, whoop. I am really struggling with my teenage son. Ooh. Every time I try to talk to him, it turns into an argument. Do you have any advice? Boy, do I.
Sounds like a classic teenager situation.
Yeah. Ooh, and it's if you haven't historically done gentle parenting or practice that, and then you have a teenager and all of a sudden you try to do this huge dynamic shift. The good news is it's going to be so much easier than if you're doing it with a toddler, because a teenager is going to get on board with it real quick.
Yeah, because you're treating them like a person.
Right. Yeah.
Helps a lot with mutual respect.
It does.
Yeah. I feel like a go-to thing in this situation is being upfront with your kid, right?
Yes.
And saying, did Sarah say what her kid's name is?
No. But is it safe and it's her son? And I think she's, I think going back to even just those fundamentals of is it safe or is it kind? I'm curious what the argument is about. I wish there would have been more, but should we just guess what it could be about? What do teenagers argue?
See, I'm thinking that even more so, you could say to your son, I really want to talk to you without us fighting. I love you.
Mm-hmm.
When is a good time for us to talk? Or how can I connect with you better without us being at each other's throats? Just really opening up the conversation and trying to collaborate with your kid.
Try treating them like you would a friend. I know that sounds terrible. I'm your parent. I can't be your friend. You're right. And I want to kind of just for a second say more about that. When you say I'm your parent, I can't be your friend. When I say that to my children, what it means to me and what I am conveying to them, I don't really even say it to them, but if I did, what it would mean would be I am here absolutely no matter what. I love you unconditionally, no matter what you do, no matter what you say. I don't expect you to give me anything in return. You owe me nothing. And I am here for you unequivocally, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that
I'm your parent first.
But also I'm your absolute best friend. I am the person that is in your corner. I am all the best qualities of a best friend without you ever having to worry about holding space for me. And that is what a parent should be, because with a best friend, even with you and I, we hold space for each other. It's a turn-taking thing.
Uh-huh.
And
that's not your relationship with children.
No, you cannot expect your child to hold space for your feelings. Mm-mm. Really, no.
It's not their job.
It's not at all their job. So I would say that the majority of arguing that I see between teenagers is because the teenager honestly, truly is just I just want to be treated with respect. I want to be treated like an adult. But
stop talking at me.
Yes. And don't tell me just because I said so. That would just be so rude. If a friend said something hey, do you want to meet me for coffee? And I said no. And they were okay, cool. But when are you free? And I was you can't do that period because I said so. My friend would be what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that just a lot of arguments with teenagers truly just stem from an unnecessary power struggle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So
true.
Yeah. So much of teenage arguing just stems from such unnecessary power struggles. And, you don't need to show anyone who's boss. If you need to feel like a boss, then I think that you need to find that outside of being an authority figure in your family if you're seeking that. Because a family is a village and a community and collaboration.
And it is not your kingdom to rule.
No. So
with an iron fist.
Yeah. I guess
or an iron fish. I don't know.
And this isn't always fair to say, but I would say that most often, it's hard to stomach this. Most often, our kids' behavior is a reflection of ours.
Yeah.
Not to say that kids won't be kids and whatever, but if you're really having that many arguments and struggling, I want you to think back about how you are approaching your son.
Introspection is
everything.
The start.
Yes. And maybe...
And it's going to be uncomfortable.
It is. And I actually really encourage you to start seeing a therapist.
Oh, yeah.
If you
would say that, I feel like we'll tell anyone to see a therapist.
Everybody go see a therapist, but especially if you're just starting out on this gentle parenting journey, you are going to be so triggered that like going to therapy will be your saving grace in doing this radical generational trauma breaking change. You deserve, you need, it's necessary a therapist when you're doing this work.
Because you're gonna come up with so many things that hurt you as a child. There's a lot of inner child work in this. So the idea of inner child work is you are soothing the person you were when you were younger and soothing that person's wounds with the idea that those wounds are living inside of you even as an adult. So I talk about how people are actually more like trees than we understand, and that so you cut the tree down and then you can see the rings. Each year of the tree's life is right there.
Yeah.
And I think we're like that in a way too. All of the years that you've been alive are still in you. All of the people you've ever been, they're still with you. And you are the caretaker of all those people.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But yeah, just the idea that the wounds on your young self are going to come out in your relationships with children especially.
And just a thing that I want to point out specifically, like parenting is a very triggering experience. Parenting is very hard. It is like the most beautiful, most difficult thing, most fulfilling thing that you will ever do, but it's hard as fuck. And the thing I wanted to say about that is that there will be moments when you see your child do something that you as a child did, and you will automatically react like your parent did just to claim the role in the situation that had power. And that is why this system continues, because...
And it's like knee-jerk.
It's a knee-jerk. It's your default programming.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault, because now, finally, you're in the position where you're in the position of power, and it feels good, and it feels safe to stay there, because you don't want to turn that back around and be that kid. But instead, I want you to consciously try and look at your child and think about, like, if this was a younger me, how would I want to react? But most importantly, the thing that I like to tell people, which is whatever, when you're struggling, when you're at your hardest point with your kid, where you're like, I am so close to losing it with them, I want you to think that for just a second, it's 80 years from now, and you get one moment back with your kid, and this is that moment. How would you like to look back knowing you reacted? If you could relive this again 80 years from now, how would you like to see you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. How is this going to be something that we don't remember? Because it's best when there are interactions that we don't remember, because the ones that we remember tend to be the ones that were bad. Also, major space for your situation.
Yeah.
Major space.
Because that's hard.
Yeah, it's different.
It's a hard point.
It's different.
Yeah. I do have a question for you. It's from David in New York.
In New York.
New York. My kid is throwing more and more tantrums, and I never know what to say or do. Do you have any suggestions?
So many, but also like tantrums are so hard. So I just want to hold space for that is
let's
draining.
First validate David.
Yeah, I haven't been doing a good job of that. I'm clearly, let's validate the parents. Parenting is hard.
It's really hard.
Having kids that have tantrums are hard.
It's so triggering. Especially because so many of us, when we were in a tantrum, just got yelled at.
We were treated like we felt like the world was ending. Like, imagine if as a full-grown adult, like we were freaking out like that and nobody was even listening to us. We were being ignored. I would just feel so like... I don't know. It would be traumatizing for me, because I'd be like, I don't know what to do with this huge feeling. It's like having passing a kidney stone or something for the first time. This is so uncomfortable, and it feels so big that it's taking over my body, and I'm freaking out, and I'm having these reactions in my body, and it's like I'm screaming. I need help because this is so uncomfortable. I've never felt this.
Okay.
Help me.
Rachel, you're touching on like Such a delicious concept here, which is that kids do not understand what they're feeling. They do not have a name for it. They don't know anyone else has felt it before. They don't know what to do about it.
And it feels
foreign. It feels like an illness.
I want you to
think about feeling angry.
Or think about your very first heartbreak.
Oh, no, I don't want to.
First heartbreak. I know. But that is what, they're so fresh, so raw, so new. They're not little adults. They've never felt like sadness before. They've never felt anger before. Holy shit.
Yeah. So the most powerful thing you can do for them in that moment is label what's happening for them.
Yeah.
You're feeling angry.
Self-disclose and identify.
Right. You're feeling angry. I see you. It's okay to be angry.
I feel
angry too sometimes. And then what I would do in that circumstance is describe what I like to do when I feel angry.
Yes.
Right. I will say, sometimes when I'm angry, I really like to move my body. I like to run really, really fast or push the wall. Right. Because that large gross motor movement, that's going to really help with regulation. Sometimes when I'm really, really angry, I need to draw an angry picture or write an angry note, right? Something to get the rage out. And then, sometimes it's describing to them what anger feels like. When I feel angry, I feel these things. And then they can recognize those in their body, and that helps bring you down, right? You are realizing that what you're experiencing, the child is realizing, what they're experiencing is not brand new. It's going to end, right? People have been through this before. It's good.
It's like women in labor.
Yeah.
Right? Seriously, because they're just like, I don't think you understand what's happening. And it's like, I understand.
Like, no,
it's big. It's big. I know. I'm here with you, girl.
It's wild.
And I'm going to keep you safe. And I'm here with you. I know. Wow, it's a lot. I know. I'm right here. Here. What if we approached like every huge tantrum as if it was somebody like about to do a big vulnerable thing, like give birth, and it's scary, and this is a new feeling in my body.
In a way it is, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It is.
So I think what we're telling you, David, is identify the emotion, validate the emotion, empathize with it. And then also, just because you're identifying, validating, and empathizing does not mean it's okay for your kid to hit you.
Exactly.
Just to be super clear. If your kid is hurting themselves, others, or you don't have to validate that.
No.
My go-to there is it's okay to be upset. It is not okay to hurt other people. In a calm voice. And then saying, I will help you keep your body safe. I will help you keep my body safe if you can't do it.
So that's Sophia's way of saying it. And I always say, all feelings are welcome. All behaviors are not.
Yeah.
So we both have different scripts on how we say it.
Yeah.
Eloise has heard it about every way that it can be said, but
you may not hurt me.
No, I'm not going to allow you to hurt me or other people.
Yeah. You cannot throw blocks at the TV, but you can be mad.
You're not going to, we have to take care of our community.
Yeah.
So.
But thank you so much for joining us today,
Thank you for
everybody.
joining us.
Thank you for having me, Rachel.
Thank you for being here. Once again, this is MindMomBodyRN. You can find us at MindMomBodyRN.com. And I am Rachel.
I am Sophia.
And until next time, take care, Mama.